Okay, so my husband was watching this, and I was very interested. It's officer's arrest man for asking directions. So I don't want to take all of his info. So let's just kind of see what we can do. So if you guys want to subscribe to Audit the Audit, do so. If he's got videos like this, I'm sure they're highly entertaining. I just want to know what happened. My husband had to leave, and I'm like, I kind of want to see. So he just sent it to me. I'm like, all right, fine. If I'm going to watch it, you guys are going to watch it. So let's go.
Really, Miss.
I'm really confused.
Can you direct me to the person I need to talk to about the parking situation?
Well, if you have a problem with the
Yep.
parking situation,
Yeah, because I don't know, 'cause I'm parked right in front of City Hall.
I can tell you.
Is that a problem with the 2-hour parking in front of City Hall?
I don't know where you keep coming up with this 2-hour parking.
I saw 2 signs. Dude, you need me to show you a picture of that?
No.
Like
Are
that?
you pranking me right now, or are you really serious?
I don't
I'm
think,
just
I get the impression you don't realize how bad the streets are and the parking is then. You're not really, you're not
Where are
really.
you from?
Mr. Hines voiced his concerns about 2-hour parking signs near the library, and after several minutes of discussion, a City Hall employee called the Harrison County Sheriff's Office to assist with the situation.
I mean, the parking's a lot better up north in those cities that I've been to. I guess I got called, or you guys are just here for me?
Yeah, we're here for you.
Okay, all right.
I'm not
You wanna
understanding
direct-
if he's pranking me, if he's pulling my leg, or if there's something wrong. He's very concerned about the parking, and we're gonna get a photo. We've got a GoPro on our chest, so we're obviously
Hey,
recording.
why don't you have a seat right here?
Have a seat.
Yeah.
What's
We're
it?
gonna go talk to them in the back and find out what's going on.
All right. Well, just all right, yeah, because you didn't hear the conversation.
Wait, I want to know if anybody has ever went through this, because to me this is normal. I feel like anytime I have to ask anybody questions, I need to have photographs, I need to have evidence. I take everything. Because talking to anybody that works for the city, for a doctor's office, oh my god, don't get me started. I have worked in a clinic, I've worked for a doctor's office, I've worked front desk. I mean, the stuff that is policy, I could do video after video about that. But let's do this, okay? So, maybe this isn't supposed to be normal, but I feel that if you don't have the pictures, and if you don't speak very clearly, which he is, and if you don't smile to show you're friendly, and you say, no, I'm not pranking you, and you don't turn to, confuse them, you need to look at them and say, no, I'm not pranking you at all. What I'm trying to understand is there is no parking, or, whatever the situation may be. I don't know why that person just couldn't get up and follow him. I have no idea. So maybe they felt threatened for whatever reason. No clue. We'll find out.
No, but we'll talk to you too, so.
So tell me if you've ever had an incident like this.
All right. Well, I'm the one that they called the cops on. I guess
That's
they
SWAT
buzzed the
team?
cops
No.
on. And I parked right out here, and I was asking about the parking situation. Apparently, we can park across the street. Because I mean,
Right there?
you know about the 2-hour signs, right? The 2-hour limits. Are you blocking me from exiting?
I'm trying to figure out why I'm being called.
Okay. Well, I guess you want to talk to. Yeah. All right.
Why couldn't he take the officer out there to show him? Why was he standing in front of the doorway? He could have said, show me what you're talking about. I mean, he was being very clear. You, Mr. Officer, you obviously must know about the 2-hour parking. Maybe he needs to stay in the library for longer than 2 hours. I don't know. Maybe he has specialized equipment in his car and he wants it right up front in case somebody breaks in. There are so many thefts going on. I mean, people don't even care if your alarm is going off. It's just terrible. Well, maybe in this instance they would care if the alarm goes off because they call for anything, right?
Fine.
Have a seat for me.
You want to talk to the...
Have a seat for me.
What's the problem? What's the
I'm
crime?
just trying to figure out what's going on. Have a seat
Well,
for me.
I've been sitting in my car for all morning. I just want to...
Okay.
I mean, I'll move over if you're afraid I'm going to escape. I mean, am I being detained?
Officer Harris
You're gonna
orders
escape with a
Mr.
library
Hines to
book.
take a seat after having blocked his attempt to exit the building. But when Mr. Hines asks if he is being detained,
Wait a
Officer
minute.
Harris
Wait a minute. We just did a video on Gregory Hines, guys. How weird is that? Gregory Hines is not the one being detained, just so you guys know. But I just thought that was very strange.
I mean, am I being detained?
Officer Harris orders Mr. Hines to take a seat after having blocked his attempt to exit the building. But when Mr. Hines asks if he is being detained, Officer Harris insists that he is not. When an individual is detained by a police officer, they have been seized within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment, according to a long line of Supreme Court precedent. However, whether or not an individual is considered to be legally detained is not always a black and white determination.
Wait a minute. That already is scary. This is why I do not even like to do anything that is even questionable. Because once they even get those cuffs on you, who's to say if they're going to take them off? Okay? There are so many. That's why you need a lawyer. And then it's like, are you going to be able to call a lawyer? There was another video my husband was watching, I think it was yesterday, where these guys were magnet fishing or something, and they found rockets, and because they were fishing in a military space, they got like all kinds of tickets, and they were told, sorry, but you're gonna get these tickets, and you're lucky you're not going to jail. After they had already made the calls, I know I keep digressing, but I'm just saying, look how easy it is to get into trouble. He's going to the library asking a question. The library. This is not a heroin den or whatever, you know? I don't even know if that's a real thing. But it's just, this is crazy. This is crazy.
In the well-known 1968 case of Terry versus Ohio, the Supreme
Wait, I gotta see this. Not that I can actually
and white determination.
understand
In the well-known
law. Under the Fourth Amendment, a policeman may stop a suspect on the street with, this is in Ohio. If the police officer has a reasonable suspicion that the person is committing or is about to commit a crime. Holy! I don't like that. What if the officer just feels like harassing somebody? Hopefully not, but it happened.
1968 case of Terry versus Ohio, the Supreme Court explained that, quote, obviously, not all personal intercourse between policemen and citizens involves seizures of persons. Only when the officer, by means of physical force or show of authority, has in some way restrained the liberty of a citizen, may we conclude that a seizure has occurred. As time went on, the Supreme Court clarified this standard by adding the Mendenhall test, named for the case where it was first introduced in a concurring opinion, to the considerations involved in determining if an individual has been seized. In the 1991 case of California versus Hodari D., the court explained that the Mendenhall test established that, quote, a person has been seized within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment only if, in view of all the circumstances surrounding the incident, a reasonable person would have believed that he was not free to leave, and, quote, that the test for existence of a show of authority is an objective one.
Not whether the citizen perceived that he was being ordered to restrict his movement. Okay. Do you know how many days, how many lawyer hours, how many court proceedings this would take to prove or disprove? You have to have deep pockets. You have to have the gumption to go through with this. You guys, I don't know, if for those of you who are new to me, my best friend who passed away in 2017, Jerry was a Vietnam veteran. He did not know the words back down. He was a very good, law-abiding person, but if something was so stupid as like jaywalking and he got a ticket for that, he would fight tooth and nail. He would tell somebody to go F themselves. He's told police officers that when they would bring him up on stupid things. I mean, he has been in the paper a million times for things like this. I mean, he had a big mouth, but at the same time, he would do all the physicals for the police department and fire department, and even for the correctional officers. I mean, it was wild. It was wild, and so I had to watch and help him to get a lot of his lawyer stuff together, his evidence. Let me tell you, those were not years that I want to go back and rehash. So, me telling you that going to court is fun it's not. It's not great. Even if you have the truth, even if you perceive the truth is on your side, there's always some kind of stipulation. There's always some kind of addendum or whatever. It is frustrating, to say the least. It's almost like as if you have to be a lawyer. You need to know some parts of the law in order to make any sense of it. And that's why you have all these lawyer jokes, and I'm not saying anything bad about lawyers. They serve a very good purpose. A good lawyer is worth their weight in gold. So anyway, just saying it's better just not to get into any kind of sticky situation.
Not whether the citizen perceived that he was being ordered to restrict his movement, but whether the officer's words and actions would have conveyed that to a reasonable person. Here, although Officer Harris claims that Mr. Hines is not being detained, a court would likely find that his actions would have conveyed to a reasonable person that they were not free to leave. By physically blocking Mr. Hines from exiting the building and then ordering him to take a seat, Officer Harris communicated through a show of authority that Mr. Hines was being detained, and accordingly seized him.
You're not being detained.
What's these guys talk to him. What's the deal?
We're just trying to figure out
Did
what
you
your
say you're
concern
not
is.
being detained?
Okay, so she gave her side, and you got a full scope of what she said.
No, I'm asking you what your concern is. Why you're.
No, are you satisfied with her story, I guess?
I guess, yeah.
Okay,
I didn't
well,
ask
yeah,
a lot of questions.
so you understand where she's coming from, and my side is I'm interested in finding a good parking spot.
Okay. There's 2 lots right here, if you're looking for on-square.
Yeah, and if we could walk out there, I mean,
Hold on.
I'll show you where I'm parked.
But where were you parked?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Just show me right here.
Am I being detained for a crime?
We're trying to figure out what's
Well,
going
then
on.
it'd probably be easier to point from the closer area to this parking where I'm at and where I can park outside. You guys prefer to talk inside?
Yeah, it's cold outside.
Oh, it's because okay, well that's reasonable.
We're not sure what your concern is what.
This is a 2-hour parking. I'll get a ticket for 2-hour parking. You know what?
Get a ticket for 2-hour parking.
Okay, so I guess I didn't ask the question directly. Will I get a ticket for parking longer than 2 hours? The answer is no. Okay, well then that settles it.
All right. Do you have your
Hey,
driver's license on you?
What's
Driver's license?
what is it?
So I can identify you. Make sure you don't have any warrants.
Well, I mean, first we have to establish a crime.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
Making contact with you is good enough. I've been
Yeah, that's
called here.
fine, and you
I've been
can make
called here.
contact.
Hey, I've been called here to make
Harris?
contact with you. Yes,
Okay.
Officer Harris.
Well, who's the
If
caller?
you're failing, they are.
Well, no, they were the buzzer. They buzzed,
If
right?
you are failing to identify yourself to me and not give me your ID,
Yeah.
I will take you to jail.
If you want a crime.
Officer Harris claims that being called to make contact with an individual grants him the authority to identify the person he was called to contact. As we have discussed many times on ATA, individuals can only be legally required to identify themselves to officers if there is a reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, and the state has enacted a stop and identify statute that requires individuals to identify themselves in these situations. Therefore, citizens cannot be required to identify themselves simply because an officer makes contact with them, even in states that have passed stop and identify laws. And only some stop and identify laws authorize officers to arrest individuals for refusing to identify themselves. As the Supreme Court explained in the 2004 case of Heibel versus 6th Judicial District Court of Nevada, Humboldt County, quote, "In some states, a suspect's refusal to identify himself is a misdemeanor offense or civil violation. In others, it is a factor to be considered in whether the suspect has violated loitering laws. In other states, a suspect may decline to identify himself without penalty." While Missouri has passed a stop and identify law, which is codified in Section 84-710 of the Missouri.
I don't think I'm going to go anywhere near the East Coast, guys. I'm like, everybody's afraid of California. I don't think that going to that state to where if I come in contact with a police officer and he says, let me see your ID. I mean, the funny thing is, I'm so compliant with everything. I don't have anything to hide. But say Jerry were alive and he knew that, oh my God, we would be in jail. Because he would say no. He would straight up say no. Just to say no. I don't know.
Missouri revised statutes. It simply states that police officers, quote, have the power to stop any person abroad whenever there is reasonable ground to suspect that he is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a crime, and demand of him his name, address, business abroad, and whither he is going. It does not place a legal obligation on individuals to comply with an officer's demand for identification. So even if Officer Harris had a reasonable suspicion that Mr. Hines was involved in criminal activity, under Missouri's law, he had a right to decline to identify himself without penalty. However, it's important to note that in some situations, a 911 call alone can provide enough evidence to support detaining and identifying an individual in a state that requires citizens to comply with an officer's identification demands when the officer has reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. As the Supreme Court explained in the 2014 case of Navarrete versus California, the court has, quote, firmly rejected the argument that reasonable cause for an investigative stop can only be based on the officer's personal observation, rather than on information supplied by another.
Firmly rejected the argument that reasonable cause for an investigative stop can only be based on the officer's personal observation. That's a lot of trust to put on an officer. I'm not saying that that's wrong, because I know that we have to put trust in our police officers. Yikes. Okay. Just tell me what you guys think, because, like I said, I just know that there are some people that are very well versed in their rights. And once again, if you catch somebody, maybe a police officer, on the wrong day, or you provoke them or make them feel uneasy, they can, say, I need to see your driver's license. They may not just, give you a break or whatever. So, yikes.
Another person, and a 911 call can be sufficient to create a reasonable suspicion as long as the call shows, quote, adequate indicia of reliability for the officer to credit the caller's account.
Oh, you wanna charge me with a crime?
No, if you want to identify yourself, we want to identify you.
Well, I don't,
Where's your
I'm sorry, but I have to enforce my Fourth Amendment rights. So,
Okay. Well,
I don't understand.
You have the right to
If you
identify
think,
yourself too.
if you
so
think
where's your ID?
if you think your prosecutor's gonna back you up on that, they wanna follow through on this charge, we'll see how those arguments go.
Yeah.
They tend not to go too well in your favor.
Okay.
Just doing this,
Well,
a charge of what?
Do you not want to give me your driver's license?
Well, do you wanna give me your driver's license?
I don't have to give you my driver's
Well,
license.
I don't understand why you can't
Because
give
I'm
me,
making contact with you.
I'm making contact with you.
I'm going to run
And
and make
these
sure
two.
there's no warrants.
Are you asking ID
Sir,
for your own curiosity?
no,
or for the betterment of the
We were called over here because there was someone that was irate.
irate?
City Hall.
Okay.
The reason we're asking for your ID is because a crime has been committed. We're not
Oh.
trying to charge you with one.
Well, if you think you want to follow through on charging me with a crime, I mean, see what your prosecutor, your city prosecutor would want to, go through.
So here's the question is, why don't you identify yourself? We'll all move on.
Well, why don't we establish the crime, and we got a Fourth Amendment here. We got to get through here, all right? And I mean, there's steps to take with that. If you want to fully charge me with a crime, then I guess you have to arrest me, and follow through on that.
Sheriff Place claims that Mr. Hines has committed a crime because they received reports that he was acting, quote unquote, irate.
What would you guys do, honestly? Would you guys do exactly what this man is doing, or would you just be like, here's my driver's license, get out of my face? But not say get out of my face, but just think it. This is crazy. I really think this is crazy. I don't know. I don't want to steal this guy's whole video. I really don't. This is a mess. Oh my god. All right. Let's see what happens. If I can't find what happens, you guys have to go to the link that I leave and you guys figure it out, because no. I'm blown away that it even transpired this far. I don't know if they're doing this for the camera's sake. I don't know if they think, hey, this is gonna go viral, because it pretty much did. But wow.
If you think that's what your city prosecutor is going to support you on, I mean, this is a contact thing. I just asking about parking. This would be laughed out of court, Harris. But if you want to follow through.
Yeah. Are you failing to give me your ID?
Are you failing to give me your ID?
Are you failing to give me your ID?
Okay, I'm willing to exchange IDs.
Face the wall.
All right.
Put your phone down.
All right.
Put your phone down.
After Mr. Hines refused to give his ID to Officer Harris placed him under arrest. Mr. Hines was held in the county jail overnight and charged with second-degree harassment and peace disturbance. The charges were dropped a few days later, but it is unclear whether Mr. Hines will be following up this encounter with legal action. Overall, the Bethany officers get an F for escalating an innocent encounter into a criminal arrest, displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of Missouri's identification laws, and for baselessly accusing Mr. Hines of committing a crime in an effort to gain control of the situation. Instead of approaching Mr. Hines in an effort to assist him or be of service in some capacity, the Bethany officers criminalized his behavior and ultimately arrested him for failing to comply with their unlawful orders. This interaction presented a perfect opportunity for the officers to welcome a citizen to their city and address any concerns that Mr. Hines had about the parking situation, and nothing that Mr. Hines did suggested that criminal activity was afoot. Exactly. The Bethany officers blatantly misrepresented several laws, completely disregarded Mr. Hines' Fourth Amendment rights, and failed to do any measure of investigation before conducting an arrest. And it's no wonder that the charges against Mr. Hines were promptly dismissed. This interaction highlights how quickly a small misunderstanding can escalate into an unnecessary arrest when members of law enforcement neglect to properly carry out their duties.
Dang.
Mr. Hines gets an A, because although he could have exercised his right to silence more effectively, he remained calm and collected throughout the encounter, maintained a reasonable balance between complying with the officer's orders and questioning his conduct, and challenged the legitimacy of the officer's actions without becoming rude or vulgar. At no point did Mr. Hines commit a crime or display any conduct that would warrant a police officer's involvement. And it is difficult to understand why the Bethany City Hall employees called 911 at all. Mr. Hines does not consider himself a First Amendment auditor, but he is also no stranger to police interactions. Mr. Hines lives in his car and travels all across the United States, stopping at various public parking lots to rest and enjoy whatever public facilities may be available. And this often results in the police being called to investigate his behavior. Mr. Hines often demonstrates a relatively thorough understanding of his rights, and certainly has a unique way of expressing himself and exercising those rights. Be sure to give Mr. Hines' channel your support. You can find a link in the description below.
I am so going to his channel. So going, guys.
Hey.
Oh shoot. I went too far. Oh my gosh.
Or for the betterment.
Interaction content and exercising those rights. Be sure to give Mr. Hines' channel your support.
Yes. I think both Audit the Audit and Mr. Hines. I think that was awesome. Because you know what? He's making sure that our laws really are not insane, and that people should be doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I think that police officers should be definitely first and foremost here to serve, help us. So that was really awesome. Okay, I gotta go. It's time to go. Hope you guys have a great day, and if I don't see you, have a great weekend. Bye.